Welcome back to the Flying Elvis Chronicles. I am the Flying Elvis, and this is my podcast. For anybody who stops in, thank you. Just trying to build this thing up, spread some awareness on what I'm here to talk about today, which and every day, which is going to be. You see that book? This book right here will give you the answers to why things are going the way they are today and what is really going on. As you know, I said this in the last one, but W. Cleon Skousen wrote this book in 1958, or is published in 1958. But there was about 10 years worth of work that he did for the FBI as a special agent, surveying the U.S. Communist Party, overseas interest, and he was finding out what was going on. And if you remember, or you remember in history, J. Edgar Hoover was extremely sensitive to anything coming in from the outside, especially after World War II. Any different ideals. He couldn't stand any president who had progressive ideals, and he didn't like that shit coming in. And so Mr. Skousen here, Agent Skousen, was able to compile a lot of information on what the Communist Party was doing. By 1958, it's published, and it really has to do with the 45 goals of the Communist Party to influence the West. That's it. This is what and really, to be honest with you, their writings on this, their goals started right after World War II, and he was able to infiltrate them enough to be able to get them. Now, stopping them, it was a completely different thing. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was a little easier than it is now. It's not just as black and white. But you look at 1963, when he's called in to Congress to present these 45 goals of the Communist Party, and it got everybody thinking about where we were at, where we're going, and it scared the crap out of some people. Problem is, when you're looking at 50 plus 60, almost 60 years now, it's a very different story. But where we're going to start is just the 45 goals themselves. And when you hear this, or if you hear something that you understand, just make a little note of it. We'll go back over this a time or two again, but goal number one, and this is and it was actually the Soviet communists, but they were nestled in over here good. Number one, U.S. acceptance of coexistence, excuse me, I'm live. U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. Basically, back down everything as far as aggression. Number two, U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. So now we're not just, are we backing off, but now we're looking, we're going back the other way. And then there's alternatives to it, which is good, to be honest with you, but you got to start weakening the big dog at some point. And this is what they're doing. Three, develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. Now, people that are my age, or if you came up, let's say Gen X or before, you've heard that. President Reagan was really the only one that said, no, that's not how this shit's going to work. As a matter of fact, I'm ramping shit up. Trump did the same thing. But if you look at presidents in between, they backed us down. And I'm not for nuclear war in any way. But to do it that way is wrong and against our country. Number four, permit free trade between all nations, regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not these items could be used for war. Now, think about that for a second. Before this, communist nations were not able to trade with democracies, or if they did, it was touch and go here and there. But the U.S. was nope, and they were able to get this done pretty damn quick. Now, it also kind of came around when Cuba was getting cut off, so that right there, that was a little bit different. But here, the end of it, the items could be used for war. And we're thinking, as a country, we can't let We can't let these countries take this on. And so that was a really roundabout way to explain it. In other words, you don't trade with your enemy. And the communists were our enemy. We shouldn't have ever allowed it. Now, number 5, the extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites. What they mean by the Soviet satellites are Chechnya, Dagestan, Afghanistan at that point in time. This is before different wars and conflicts and things like that. Number 6, provide American aid to all nations, regardless of communist denomination. Used to, if you were a communist country, you got help from you got help from your lead, which would have been Russia back then. Now, here's one, and I have to I got to talk about this for a second because number 7, grant recognition of Red China grant recognition of Red China, admission of Red China into the UN. Now, if you've ever wondered why we're having issues with supply chain, we're having issues with manufacturing here, like lack thereof. In 1998, China was signed into the World Trade Organization, WTO. Now, this was a brainchild of George H.W. Bush, by the way. But it was signed into existence from our side of it with Bill Clinton. And once that took place, you can follow from 1998 until now just the absolute demise of made in the USA, if you will. I mean, it literally crashed our economies in ways that it caused inflation in ways that we would have never seen coming. But a little, I guess, a little side note to this. When we're talking about communists, a lot of times you're going to hear me referring to Democrats. But there was a lot of Republicans that were part of this. And you'll hear me referring to them because it pisses me off even worse that they're involved in it. They're the rhinos, Republican in name only. I am a conservative. However, I'm going to call, if somebody's fucking up, excuse my language, but if we have politicians that fuck up like that, I'm going to call them on it. So anyway, I wanted to kind of stop there at number 7 and talk about that. Unless you remember this taking place, or you remember, the wall coming down and then going back and look at the history, set up East and West Germany as separate states in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question by free election under supervision of the UN. So they were supposed to give Germany back to the UN after World War II. They just wanted their pound of flesh for a little bit, and that was Khrushchev promised. And no, it didn't go back that way until President Reagan just basically crashed them out. And that did happen under Reagan, by the way. It wasn't happening to anybody else. And the wall came down. I know Bush was there, but come on, what did he do? 9, prolong the conferences to ban atomic tests because the United States has agreed to suspend tests as long as negotiations are in progress. Now, all that means is we're going to stop doing nuclear testing, which I think that's good. I mean, if there's one, I don't like the fact that they're influencing it and they kept doing it. But I also think we're better off that we didn't continue doing it. Allow all Soviet satellite states or satellite individual representation into the UN. What that means is kind of like with states and representatives here. The more representatives they have in the UN, the more control they have of voting. It's just that simple. And that right there was fought tooth and nail by Eisenhower. Believe it or not, Kennedy, LBJ didn't give two shits about it. And I think that's about it. And Nixon was a rhino as well. So that's just kind of the tumble down. We've all heard of this one in some shape, fashion, or form, but number 11, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one world government with its own independent armed forces. And at that time, some communist leaders believed that the world can be taken over easily by the UN because, well, there's no borders with them. That is getting stronger by every progressive administration. Bush, Clinton, W. Obama really, really sunk that part in deeper. And then Biden is just, well, whatever. But number 12, resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. Anytime, and we'll get into this a little bit more, and you're going to start seeing it. And I know this is going to be a long podcast, but I mean, anyway, anytime anyone is to go against a narrative that is produced by them, whether they believe it or not, resistance. What you have to understand is all these ideals came out of the Communist Manifesto. Now, a lot of after World War II, what people don't talk about is a lot of fascist ideals do mirror communist ideals. Not the Nazi regime. I'm talking about the original manifesto, Mussolini's. And so you start seeing that mob aggression, the brown shirts, black shirts, whatever you want to call them, but you start seeing that aggression kick up if you go against anything the Communist Party or that narrative is for, and you can see it damn near in anything. If you don't like it, they come after you. Do away with loyalty oaths. Pledge of Allegiance, prayer, whatever it may be. They don't want you loyal to anything but the state. Continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office. I never understood why that was even a thing. I really don't, because I whatever. You know, it's not for me to. If I was running the nation, it'd probably be, well, we'd probably all be dead. But this is, I'll leave it there. Number 15, capture capture one or both parties in the United States. I think that's fucking done. I mean, you have some outliers. I think you have some Democrats that aren't part of this. You have a lot more Republicans that aren't, but man, they're running rampant. Mitch McConnell, I mean, that shit. Nancy Pelosi just, well, anyway. AOC, I'm just saying, those are some Bernie, commie motherfuckers, man. 16, use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. Now, all you have to do is think a little bit. And you're probably going to find something within your hometown or something in your state that it was able to weaken different parts of the United States. And we're going to go back over that one in a little bit because I got to get to the next one. Number 17, do not forget the number 17 on this. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of the Teachers Association, unions. Put the party line in textbooks. And, I mean, shit. That's all they teach now. That's all the teachers union. I mean, when you get their books in or their magazines, that's all they're talking about now. Soften the curriculum. Good God. And look, this is not a knock on teachers, by the way. Not in the least. This is not a knock on on good administrators. I know they're good administrators. I know they're great teachers. They can't control what's coming down from the federal government. Or even the state government for that matter. Number 18, gain control of all student newspapers. That was done mid-60s, late 60s easily. Use student riots to foment protest or public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. That's Riley Gaines goes to San Francisco University. And what does she do? She just does not want biological men playing women's sports. They fucking attack her. That is what that is. Make no mistake. Mob rule. Number 20, infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, and policy making positions. I don't think I need to say a whole lot about that. Was a seat, but it was not me. But infiltrate the press. Gain control. The next one, 21, gain control of key positions in TV, radio, motion pictures. I don't think I need to say a lot there. Number 22, Continue discrediting the American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculptures from parks and buildings, substitute with shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms. Now, what the fuck's he talking about? To remove good sculptures, good art. We have we have men that have built this country that they're trying to remove all the time. Some of them, well, you know what? Those are people's heritage. I don't justify getting rid of any of them. But if you want to do anything, add. That shows the progression of a nation. But when they come back and they put that blob that's in Chicago, that fucking silver blob, that means, and people think it is shapeless, meaningless art. And that's one big one. Yes, I chew tobacco. Fuck off. Number 23, control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. And fucking look at their money. That's just when we'll get back into that one a little bit later too. Number 24, this is bold. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. And now, for my generation, we know this as the illicit lyrics put on to albums. That was, they wanted to start demoralizing, and that's how they did it. And well, but they protect things like porn under free speech and things like that, which I'm not against free speech in the least. It's just one of those things of, where does morality lie? And that's to each and every, I guess. Number 25, break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. There is not a show, and I told my wife, I said, there's not a show on TV right now that I can watch comfortably in my living room with the kids walking back and forth, their friends walking back and forth. When I was a kid, look, nudity in movies was great, especially if it was some model. It was just awesome, especially when you stay up late and watch like Cinemax. That was back in the early 80s. But I don't see the point of nudity in a movie. It does not drive anything else home. A sex scene does not drive anything else home. The way that they used to do it in movies, where they'd walk in a room, shut the door, and then the sun comes up, you know damn well what they went in there and did. You don't need any details, just like you don't need the details of somebody else's life. So I just refuse to watch movies like that anymore. Call me old, fuddy-duddy, whatever. I'm 49. I don't have time for that shit anymore. Number 26, pay attention to this number right here, because some terms have been changed here of late. This right here will hit home faster. Faster and shit. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Now, you're able to go find places where they've replaced homosexuality with transgender or gender dysphoria or whatever it may be as normal, healthy, natural. And I've said this in a lot of different posts that I've done. Homosexuality to me, man, woman, bi, LBG, man, woman, it's you. And I can see that, because it is, well, you're a man with a man, you love somebody, or you just it doesn't matter to me what you do, because it's biologically you're a man. I get it. You're attracted to men. Women, lesbians, you're attracted to women. I get it. We all voted to make sure that rights are equal. We all fought to make sure that rights we're still fighting to this day, and we got a long way to go. I know, but I don't know where the fuck that tea came from. And that was not around many years ago. I mean, I grew up during the 80s. I remember the Pride marches. The Pride marches were gay, lesbian, and queer. But it didn't have an acronym like that. And man, we were raised different. Just understand that. My generation was raised different. You supported your fellow man. But then when they come in and lie to you about that's a woman and they got something hanging between their legs, that's just not going to happen. That's not right. Number 27, infiltrate the churches by replacing religion with social religion, discredit the Bible, and emphasize a need for intellectual maturity that does not need a religious church. I mean, that's really easy. You know, social religion is, I would say, 50% of what's out there. You have your Bible churches, you have your mosque that are steeped in the Quran. But in each one of those religions, you do have feel good, kind of, you know, this is just what we do, and it's okay. Do what you want, be free. And it's led to the demoralization of the church as well. Number 28, eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in schools on the ground. It violates the principle of separation of church and state. That was actually the first one that was accomplished by them. Yeah, that was the first one. And well, demoralization has snowballed since then. Say what you want. Number 29, discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. You hear that all the time. You hear that all the time. There is, I mean, really, the Constitution is what's kept this nation together as long as it has. It is a reason why we are still, after all the bullshit we've been through, are still the strongest nation by a long shot. No, China's not close. Not on that, but I mean, it will be if we keep our shit up. But that Constitution is what's held it together. That Bill of Rights is what's held it together. Can't tell me any fucking different. Number 30. Well, we're hearing a lot of shit, and we have been. Discredit the founding fathers, present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. All right, look. That's bullshit. I'm gonna tell you why. And look, I've studied politics, the psychology of politics, my whole life. I was just fascinated when I was young. And this book was presented to me in college, by the way. We'll get it. That'll be another story. But the founding fathers were rich men, no doubt. If you're going to front a rebellion, you're going to have money behind you. But these crazy motherfuckers knew that if we don't pull this off, we're all dead. And I'm talking about them. They would just get the civilians back in order like they've always had. And I mean, they'd kill off the ones that support them, but that'd be it. The nation would just go back to the way it was. But to pull off the ultimate freedom of becoming your own nation, these guys had to go. No concern for their common man. Washington went out and fought with them. So, you know, go ahead and believe that. And then, well, I can't believe anybody believe that if you really know history. Number 31, belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the grounds. Get this. Everyone's heard this if you've been to college. And I heard it back in the 90s. There's only a minor part of the big picture. Give more emphasis to Russia, countries that are like Russia, communist China, and then by the way, sorry, give more emphasis to the Bolshevik Revolution. Yeah, well, the world's still a half third world nation if America never came along. So if those commies would have kept starving out their people, there may not be people left. But anyway, number 32, supporting a socialist movement to give centralized control over to or over any part of culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, ECT, welfare programs, social agencies, education. I mean, all of that's a part of it. There's no way it's not now. It's all tied back to the federal government too. Eliminate all laws or procedures which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. A lot of that's different now. Just remember 33. We'll get back into that one because I'm running really long now. And I never thought I would be on. Never mind. Eliminate number 34. Eliminate House Committee. Eliminate the House Committee on Un-American Activities. So, real quick, they had committees set up, all through. I don't know how far this went back. But anything that was un-American, in other words, that went against the way the American citizen was investigated. They had panels on this, they had committees, and they would investigate this shit. Well, they did that. Number 35, discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. We're going through that right now. Not that I agree with federal agencies at all. I can't stand that many levels, but I also like safety too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Number 36. Now, look, pay attention to these real quick. If you do make it this far in a video, please pay attention. Number 36, infiltrate and gain control of more unions. If you ever read Sal Lipsky's Rule for Radicals, that was such a big part of it because you can bully anybody around when you get a hold of their company and their workers. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. Done. Disney, fucking go across the board. 38 through 40 has to do with what is going on right now, and it has to do with BLM. BLM is the movement that brought this in, which is defund the police as well. Transfers some of the powers of arrest from police to social agencies. Treat all behavior problems as a psychiatric disorder, which no one but psychiatrists can understand. Number 39, dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. Anything done now that goes against the narrative, whatever that narrative is, you're a semi-fascist, you're a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, conspiracy theorist. I mean, it gets spun in a certain way, and we're going to talk more about that. Those two right there is what defund the police is. I mean, if you go read their website, that's what it is. I'm not shitting you. I'm not making that up. Go read their website. Learn more about it if you really want to know what they don't just, they want to defund the police. No, they want to systematically change the way things work. BLM has nothing to do with black people, folks. It has everything to do with systematically changing. They're not supporting any black people, by the way. If you go read their websites about indigenous trans people right now, women, has nothing to do with black men and nothing to do with unarmed black men being shot. Their lives don't matter. Trans lives matter now. Keep that shit in mind. Just go read. Number 40, discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. That's been done for the last 30, 40 years. But BLM had on their website to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family. And that's absolutely part of the Marxist agenda. And so it just goes to show, once again, Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Black lives. It has everything to do with pressing on a communist construct, and that's it. And if you think differently, you're so uneducated. Go read, is all I'm saying. Go read. Number 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, attribute prejudice, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. We've all heard that one. We've all heard that bullshit. And so, I mean, we hear it, the schools have a tight rein on that, and it's getting a little bit fucking scary. But this is part of what this agenda brings. Now, kind of a pause for a second. If you know of any of these rules, which if you're in tune, you know a lot of these rules they've accomplished. And we're going to get into them step by step. But a lot of this is already in place. And a lot of people that are, say, 20 years old now, they have no idea. It was before they were born. They have no idea of this. They don't know what the world was like before it. So I said, communism they play the long game. Number 43, over. Oh, sorry. Number 42, create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition, that students and special interest groups should rise up and unite force to solve economic problems. Okay, now look, January 6th, which was so debunked now, it's stupid, but was, it was an insurrection that was terrible. But you have Antifa and all these other organizations that can go out and do whatever the fuck they want. And there's no prison time. That's part of this agenda. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. Number 44, internationalize the Panama Canal. That was done during Carter's administration. And 45, repeal the Connolly Reservation so the United States cannot prevent the World Court from seizing jurisdiction over domestic problems. Give the World Court jurisdiction over nations and individuals alike. Ties back to the UN. Look, if you did watch this all the way through, God bless you, because that's a lot. But if you want to know what is going on, it's within those 45 goals. It's within that book, and that's it. There's nothing else. This is literally, this is being let out. Our politicians, our teachers, our administrators in schools, high-level authorities are all working the kinks out of this as we speak. So you have to know what's going on. But I'm going to go live back in a minute. We're going to get into one or two of these, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing on TV right now with the whole, anyway. Thanks for watching. God, it's 31 minutes. I never thought I'd ever speak that long. And for the people that popped in, thank you. For the people that didn't, you'll be here soon. You'll be here soon. Bye.